Hello and welcome back, Mavericks and fellow YouTubers alike. I really appreciate you taking the time out to look at this video. Before I start the video, I just want to let you know that I am working on several Pokemon what-ifs, several Pokemon theories, and other news stories, and I'm collabing with both big and small-time Poketubers as well to accomplish this. So, in between that time, I'm going to be talking about this video, which is going to be detailing competitive battling. Now, I don't want to outright state that competitive battling is broken, but when you see the state of official, the World Tournament competitive battling, and you see the Pokemon that end up being used, they all end up being very samey at the end of the day. This isn't necessarily a bad thing, but it is somewhat boring to see the same exact Pokemon always appear at the end of finals. This time, the Pokemon that were consistently used were Pokemon like Arcanine, Tapu Koko, and Ultra Beast, which really isn't a surprise with the movesets that they can learn and their stats as well, especially being the new generation, Pokemon Sun and Moon. So of course, the Ultra Beasts are probably one of the best Pokemon that you can use in competitive battling. Now, I've been out of the competitive battling scene since Heart Gold and Soul Silver, so I don't really know a lot, but I know right now that out of 900 plus Pokemon, if all you're seeing is a few Pokemon that are consistently appearing in the finals of competitive battling, that's kind of crappy, man. You have all these Pokemon you can choose, but it always comes down to these select few Pokemon for each generation. So what I'm saying here is that it's not broken, because obviously you can play offline, you can play competitively, you can play between your friends, or you can play on websites and you can gen out Pokemon. But if you're doing something official and you're trying to compete in a national tournament of some kind, or even the world tournament, if you don't have your Pokemon bred perfectly and EV trained perfectly, you're gonna get destroyed. And while that will never change due to the fact that it's so ingrained into all the generations of Pokemon, I do think there is something that can be added to help out, and that is unique movesets. Now, I'm not talking about the movesets that we have right now, and I'm not discussing the Z moves either, because those are pretty unique, but what I'm talking about is kind of a breed between the two, except that you don't have to have a Z ring, you don't have to attach anything, you don't have to make a Pokemon hold anything to use these moves. So what I mean is the unique moves that used to be on very specific Pokemon that couldn't be on other Pokemon, or were limited to very few Pokemon. Like in Generation 1, Chansey could learn Soft Boil. There was a TM to teach Soft Boil to other Pokemon, but very few Pokemon could learn Soft Boil. That's a unique move. And Rattata Eradicate could learn a move called Super Fang. Now, Rattata and Eradicate aren't Pokemon that generally speaking get used a lot, but because of this move, it was sought after just for the simple fact that it can half the enemy's HP no matter what. It's a special move, it's unique. I'd like to see a return of these moves because I think these moves are really cool. And while we've seen some Pokemon have unique moves like this, like Sacred Fire with Ho-Oh, there's just very few limited movesets that are very unique and special to Pokemon. And with the ability to breed Pokemon, you can put them on other Pokemon, it's just a matter of time, patience, and being able to breed it into them. So while I think that there are unique movesets, as aforementioned with the Z moves, and just the moves in general are pretty unique, I think that each individual Pokemon should have a unique move that no other Pokemon can learn. I think this would make it very appealing to go back to these Pokemon and use them more competitively. And these moves don't have to be overpowered, because just making them super overpowered makes Pokemon more like a glass cannon than an actual strategy game. I feel that Pokemon should be more like chess and not a race to who can finish first and fastest. Because if you were to take all these unique moves and make them overpowered, it would just end up being who can get the fastest Pokemon and the more powerful moves off, instead of using tactics like wallers and stallers. So what I mean by this is that, let's say you gave Butterfree a very unique move. It didn't have to be the most powerful move, but perhaps it could cause random status effects. I'm not a Pokemon move designer, but Butterfree could use something like Insect Spore, that would be the name, and it would flap its wings, and the spore would go out to all of the Pokemon on the field and cause a randomized status effect. It could do damage, it could not do damage, it could do limited damage, and that would be its unique moveset. So these unique moves don't necessarily have to be an overpowered Hyper Beam type of situation. They could be very weak, they could be mid-ranged attacks, they could be 100% accurate, they could be inaccurate Glass Cannon type situations, and I think that would make each individual Pokemon very unique, because every Pokemon version, every generation has its own version of Sparrow. Every generation has its own version of Caterpie and Weedle, and we have these stock Pokemon that are just changed and slightly altered in each generation. And with the Alola forms, it gives us reason to go back to these Pokemon that were otherwise cast aside in favor of the more top tier Pokemon. Because what's the point in going back and grabbing yourself a Muck, or a Fearow, or a Beedrill, especially if there's Pokemon that outclass them totally in other leagues? It makes it difficult and a hard sell to go back to each individual Pokemon and try them all out, especially if you didn't grow up with the game. And I personally think adding these unique moves would diversify the Pokemon and make it so that the end final tournaments might be slightly different. I might be completely wrong. If we added these unique moves to each individual Pokemon, the end tournament might just end up being, once again, glass cannons, whoever's quickest gets the hit off and wins. But at the end of the day, I don't know that. I'd really like to see Pokemon get a callback to more strategic battling, rather than seeing the same exact Pokemon always appearing in the end finals. I could understand if there was a few times where you saw Arcanine or an Ultra Beast here or there, but like basically everyone's team is filled up with the same type of Pokemon. The same movesets are being used, and there's a reason for that, because they win. And you go to tournaments to win. But by changing these Pokemon and giving them one unique move that no other Pokemon can learn, maybe that would completely change the game. I'm just spitballing ideas here, and I'm not really a competitive player. As I stated before, I haven't played since Heart Gold and Soul Silver. I don't really like the competitive scene for the simple fact that most of the time, people use overpowered glass cannons over anything else. But hey, that's my personal opinion, and that shouldn't reflect your love of the game. So comment down below if you think I'm right, if I'm wrong, and let me know why. And I've been your host, Protomario, and I'm signing out. Please like and share this video, and as always, good gaming, God bless, and thank you for taking the time out to watch this video. Mavericks, unite!